Okay, are we ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right, welcome to tonight's Wednesday, July 15th, 2020 Design Review Commission meeting. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Krilling.
Here.
Commissioner Gorney.
Here.
Commissioner Valia.
Here.
Vice Chair Case.
Here.
And Chair Killian.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, this is a meeting by teleconference only. This meeting will be conducted pursuant to the provisions of the governor's executive order, which suspends certain requirements of the Ralph Brown Act. Teleconference locations are not open to the public. To provide a live remote public comment, you can join the Zoom teleconference meeting. Tonight's meeting ID is 938-8733-7024. And the password, the login password is 375724. If you'd like to call in, the number is 1-669-900-6833. Okay, let's move on to item number 2, consent calendar. I don't believe we have anything on the consent calendar.
That's correct.
Move on to item 3, which is public communication. And this is a portion of the meeting where anybody in the public, if they'd like to make a comment on something that's not on tonight's agenda. Again, if you would like to participate, there's a 15-minute delay. So anybody that would like to make a comment, go ahead and raise your computer hand and we'll see what happens.
All right, so we've got about 15-second delay.
Oh, what I say?
15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just seems like 15 minutes.
All right, Christine, anything coming in? Mr. Chair, we see nobody from the public.
Okay, we'll move on to public hearings. Tonight we have one item. It's the 7-Eleven Convenience Market and Union 76 Service Station at 690 Ignacio Valley Road. Can we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair Killian and Design Review Commissioners. My name is Chip Griffin. I'm here tonight to present the following. I'm going to share my screen. There we go. How's that?
Perfect.
So far, so good.
Good. The project tonight is project number Y19090. It's for a final design review for a 7-Eleven/Union 76 convenience store with gasoline sales. The site shown here in the zoning map on the corner is Zone Central Retail. Again, the address is 690 Ignacio Valley Road. We call it YVR, of course. It's in the North Downtown Specific Plan area. There's a new road section in that specific plan, which you, I believe, have seen, or it's actually in your staff report as an exhibit. It's subject to the supplemental development standards, which we discussed at a study session previously, and the Planning Commission recently approved exceptions to those, which the Design Review Commission recommended for. It was originally built in 1971, and here's an aerial photo of the existing site. You can see over here is, can you see my cursor?
Yes, we
Everybody see? Yeah, okay. Over here is Civic Drive, and there's an entrance there. And currently there are 2 entrances or access points off Ignacio Valley Road. Here you can see the existing canopy in this area, the existing building here, this portion of which is a mini mart, and this larger portion has 3 service bays in it. And over here are the USTs, the underground tanks. Here's the proposed or the revised, actually it's very similar to the site plan you've seen before. We've got a 2,800 square foot convenience market here now, as opposed to a mini mart. There is no service bays anymore. There's a trash enclosure just to the north of it. This is a Brio over here, by the way. 4 new pump islands under a canopy. That would be 8 fueling stations. The site work, total site work, includes 11 parking spaces and landscaping in this area. This is the largest, probably most visible landscaped area over here, all along the northerly property line, around the west side, and along the frontage in this area here, with the walkway off the new shared path. The site plan shows the revised property line once the dedication is recorded. So the new property line would go from here to here. So this whole swath will be dedication. In that dedication is a 14-foot shared path, which includes a landscape strip. Well, it includes a 14-foot shared path plus a landscape strip of various widths. Moving on, the entitlement path for this project included a conditional use permit, which the DRC made recommendations on, a positive recommendation. The Planning Commission adopted a resolution 3877, which included CUPs for the station itself, convenience mart with the gasoline use, and also for concurrent sales of gasoline and alcoholic beverages. There were no exceptions to the supplemental development standards for this project. The Design Review Commission, this commission, had a study session on April 15th where you did support that CUP. And tonight, July 15th, we're considering final design review for this project. On the comments, back on April 15th, generally, and these are in the staff report, to further develop the architecture specifically to the east elevation and to the south elevation. There were some things that were pointed out, and we're going to take a closer look at those. Also to consider eliminating or reducing the stone on the canopy columns. Coordinate the signs to be more proportionate. I think it was more coordinate the building, not the signs, to be more proportionate to fit the signs. And consider moving that monument sign just to better exist or better commingle with the landscape. And we'll take a closer look at that, and that dedication has a lot to do with the reason why it was not moved. The monument sign incorporated should incorporate materials of the building. I think it showed some stone where it should have showed that adobe brick, and beef up the landscaping, which was fairly preliminary. Provide some landscape detail, and consider adding trees on the transformer. Here is the elevation from the study session. Some of the comments included that this head wall might be a little high. It's just the portion of the sign, and the Design Review Commission was looking for further development of this elevation. Also, there were some comments about these walls on the side, these brick veneered walls, that they could be a little plain, maybe beef them up a little with something. I believe green wall or some type of trellis or some architectural element would suffice. Also, the material, the samples of the materials are shown here. We've got the adobe brick, we've got the white paint color. This is the wood that's shown on the facade, on all facades actually. And then there's the dark brown storefront, and also the awning. So as revised, you can see if we take a look back, this parapet was 23'6" tall, and then these were up a little bit higher to meet that. And what happened was this was brought down, I believe it was 2.5 feet down to 19 feet. And then these two roof lines were brought down proportionately. If you take a look back, this roof line of this element was a little bit higher than this matching element over here. And then this parapet was a little bit higher than that one. So what happened was they're all down now to the matching elements to either side. So came down over 2.5 feet. You can see I had them mark in the mechanicals here, so that's gonna show. So that helps to see why or how high the parapet wall is. Excuse me. So that's the revised east side. Oh, also, let's go ahead and circle here. So we talked about the roof lines. They've also added these foul spandrel glass windows to the side, and then also reduced the trash enclosure is the same size. It's just a reduced from 4 doors down to 2 doors. This has been run past Republic Services, and they're okay with it. As far as the windows goes, this was the architect took a look at a couple of things. They did not want to pursue the green wall with trellis because they were thinking that it might be a climbing issue, trash catcher, just might be grimy looking at some point. So they decided not to. They considered it, but decided not to pursue it or design it. They went ahead with these, punched in these windows here and little soldier course of brick on top. The staff would likely support these if they were real windows, but they're not. They're black. There's space behind them, and I don't know. The concern is maybe that that they may be a place to put signage, whatever it might be, on sale that week. Staff's suggestion might be that just either go back to the way it was, or just do some more brickwork, another pattern of brickwork in this area and in this area. Keep the soldier courses, something, but just do a different pattern with the brickwork somehow. So I'd be asking the Design Review Commission to consider that as an issue. On the south side, this is what the Design Review Commission saw earlier. The applicant added this on on staff suggestion, and then this was brought to the Design Review Commission, and it was suggested that this be furthered a little bit and try to incorporate that door somehow, or either make it go around the back side, and also to just further develop this. And so what happened was they went ahead, take a look back, there's that transom up top, so that was taken away, and the storefront was pushed all the way out to the side, incorporating that door with a storefront style door and adding an awning in the top, which leaves a nice spot for signage up here. And staff would support that. It does show mechanical equipment here, but as you recall, that's back here. So it almost appears as if it might be right there, but it's back in the middle of the building. And I don't believe that's going to be going back. Okay, so that in addition, bringing the arrows, so we got an extended storefront and also brought a full width awning to match the awning on the east elevation. And staff supports this revision. Here it looks like in renderings. These are the previous renderings. This is the north side, so we're not looking at that, but the east side is down here. That was the previous one with the higher wall, the sign. And this was the south elevation previously at the study session, and now it looks like that. You'll see later that they've moved the sign a little bit over when we look at the signs. But this was a little bit uneven. I think it could have been moved over to be centered between the entire element here instead of a portion of the element that were in there. And I think they've done that because that's the way it shows in the sign plan. And on the south side, that's where the sign fits in there. As you notice, we're going to take a look at signs closer later, but the stripes have gone away to individual illuminated cans with an acrylic face. As far as canopy goes, the applicant did agreed to move the stone down, but it just didn't show up in the plans, and maybe Chandra will talk to that when the applicant comes up. But I do agree, I do believe that was just a mistake and they missed that. But there is a condition of approval added to make the brickwork no higher than 4 feet from the grade below, which would be about right in there. Signs. So let's see, let me get rid of this. So the signs include we've got wall signs here on the east and south sides. We've got signs on the dispensers. We've got 2 monument signs, and of course the canopy buttons F5. They are just around 90 square feet, 91 square feet, and are under the 100% maximum square foot of signage for services. Some of the comments included to coordinate the wall signs to be more proportionate. We've seen that in the architecture revisions. Consider moving the monument sign on YVR closer to the road or closer to the sidewalk to more incorporate the landscaping. And also that the monument sign itself should incorporate the materials in the building. But that would be the Adobe brick, which they've done. We'll take a look. And again, here's here's what I was talking about, where they moved this sign over on the east elevation almost too much, but I'm sure they'll get it right. Just center it between these 2 points and get your goal. And then on the south side, there's the signs there. They're both the same size, 22 square feet for a total of 44. And staff supports those signs. That's the detail. You can see they're 24-inch tall letters, LED channel letters with the acrylic face. The monument sign, this was how you saw it before. I think this was just a base that was put in the drawing for the signs. They've improved it to include the Adobe brick. The 7-Eleven is an aluminum face with punch through. So it's just the letters, the 7-Eleven logo that'll be illuminated at night, and otherwise it's a white painted aluminum routed face. Staff would support that change. Now on the canopy signs, there was some concern that they just didn't fit too well, and there wasn't enough space between the sign and the edge of the canopy. And the applicant did tell me the other day that they agreed to and were able to reduce this down to 30 inches, although the plans still show 36. So the Design Review Commission could speak to that and condition those to be 30 inches tall. We'll let the applicant speak and see if I got that right, because I do believe she said that that it was agreed to reduce the size of these buttons down to 30 inches, which would provide a couple more inches of space, of canopy space, top and bottom. And looking at landscape, this was the previous landscape plan saw at the study session. The concern was that it's just very preliminary. There's not a ton of detail. We know where the plantings are going to be, but I'm not quite sure what they're going to be. And then also to add some lighting detail as well as landscape, and then consider adding another tree to the transformer. This is the revised landscape plan. You can see it's much further developed as far as the planting palette goes, or as far as the planting pattern goes. The palette's been developed a little bit more. Some have been removed, some have been added. Added a tree to match these 4 trees. Actually, originally these 4 trees back here were going to be removed. They now want to replant those in this area here. And then that same tree is shown here, a water gun will be planted over here. So that's been added. There's a condition. Let's see, I got a picture of these trees somewhere. There we go. Right. there. Those are the existing trees to be replanted. There's a condition that says if those or any other tree fails within it's 2 or 3 years, that they would need to be replanted. Moving back, we'll take a look at this monument sign. The monument sign hasn't moved. What's moved is the property line. The property line, as we saw it last time, was out here, so there was it appeared to be a lot of room to maybe move this monument sign out and incorporate with some more landscape. But the fact is that this thing's pushed out as far as it can go. In fact, it still may even be a sight distance issue from there. We'll determine that. Not necessarily for automobiles on YVR, but for this shared path, which is going to be bicycles and pedestrians. So we want to make sure that they've got some sight distance. So there is the possibility that this sign gets moved back a foot or two, whatever it takes. But I think what the landscape architect has done has incorporated the landscape into the sign areas, as well as this one, a little bit better than it had shown previously. So staff supports that. As far as there's also a design guideline for physical screening around transformers. The landscape around the transformer, which is in this location here, has been upgraded to provide some more shrubs and another tree in this area. But there will be an added condition approval for a solid screen, whatever that might look like. It would probably be an adobe brick wall, 4 feet high or so. Moving on, we've already seen the trees. We'll just take a look at some renderings. As far as lighting goes, I did not add the lighting into the slideshow, but the lighting plan and the cut sheets are included in your staff report. Staff didn't really have any issues with that. There's some field lighting out here, right here. There's one, I believe, back here. There's also under canopy lights. There are under soffit lights at the entrance, and then there's sconces on all sides of the building. There's also 24-hour security with a tape backup. So staff didn't really have any issues with the lighting and supports the lighting. So as we move to the end here, we'll take a look at the revised renderings. This is on site, of course. You can see the 2-door trash enclosure here. Also, the extended storefront on the south elevation. What this doesn't show is a retaining wall that'll be right along this area. It's going to go from daylight right in here somewhere, and then probably go up to about 3.5 feet at property. And there's, I believe this is the last rendering, and this is further towards the intersection. And it's a nice view of pretty much all of the improvements for it. And with that, staff, I didn't mention, there was a issue with the resolution and engineering. The conditions that are in your resolution, that are in the resolution in your packet, the engineering conditions have been removed. And the reason for that is those conditions are all included in Planning Commission Resolution 3877, and it's typically not a good practice to repeat conditions of approval. So we had those taken out and added one condition that says those conditions in PC Resolution 3877 shall be followed. Other than that, there's no changes to the findings, no changes to the whereases, or anything else. Just those engineering conditions have been made. So with that, staff would recommend to the Design Review Commission move to adopt the draft resolution as revised, granting final approval of Y19090, 711, and Union 76. With the revised resolution subject to those conditions. Are there any questions at staff?
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Chip?
I will.
Go for it.
Was that Casey? Where'd Casey go?
That was Charles.
Did you have a question, Casey? I thought I heard your voice. Okay, just a couple,
Okay.
Chip. Did anybody from Brio ever contact you for any of this?
No, the applicant's been trying to get in touch with them, and they've had some success because they need to make an agreement to make that easement on the west side property line go away. But
Right.
they won't be able to do anything until that occurs. So
Okay.
doesn't
Okay,
mean
just
no, nothing.
Okay. And then at first I thought the 3 parking spaces, like just to the left of the exit entrance, were compacts, but I'm assuming there's going to be wheel stops on the other parking spaces, correct? So that you don't drive onto the.
They show
deeper.
bollards in front of the store.
Oh, is that what they are? I was wondering what those dots were.
Yeah, they should. Frankly, traffic engineering would rather than use wheel stops.
Okay. So that's something that traffic will work out with them later. We don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, maybe. I didn't mention that Chandra May is here with her group, and I don't believe they have a presentation. They may have something to say, but they're also here to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay.
Maybe they'll agree to that.
And that multi-use path that's eventually going to go in along Ignatia Valley Road, is that supposed to be bicycle and walking on the same side of the street? Like a 2-way bike lane?
14-foot shared path on one side will be dedicated bicycle, and right adjacent to it will be dedicated pedestrian.
Okay, so you'll have bicycles going both directions.
I don't think there's one on the other side.
Yeah, okay. In which case, I think that, again, we'll get into this, but moving that monument sign back may be important because you'll have, if you have bikes coming the other direction fast, you will have an issue there. So you'll
Yes.
have to look at that at some point. And then you were talking about centering the big sign on the east side of the building. I was looking at it. If you center it, it's going to be ever so slightly off center from the center of the door. Do you think it's better to just center it on the door and just call it a day? Just curious.
My opinion,
Yeah.
is
Never looks better.
frankly, it's so close. I'll leave that up to the design review committee.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. That was my only questions.
Okay, Carlos, Casey, you're muted.
I do have a question, yes.
Okay, sure, Carlos.
So I'm wondering about the glazing on the fall windows. What kind of glazing is it?
What kind of glazing?
Yeah.
Opaque black spandrel glass.
Is that it, Carlos?
Well, yeah, that answers the question.
All right. Casey, did you have a question?
I do. Is the windows that are on the south side, are those actual windows, or is there going to be chip stands right behind them, or what is that?
It's a foul storefront, so those will be spandrel glass as well. We've been asked several times from staff and design review commission to take a look at that and see what they can do about making that a real storefront, but it just does not work with the floor.
Okay.
And from what I remember is safety as well.
Okay. So does there need to be a door on the south side? Does there need to be access over there?
It's access to an electrical room. It would kind of mess things up if it was on the back side. Plus, it's about a 2-foot drop, so they'd need to build a stairway into there.
Okay.
It works really well with the operation of that electrical room. They have the door there.
Okay. Do you think it's misleading if somebody's coming in from the street that they would mistake that for an access point and try to go in there? I mean, it's a little hard to tell.
Oh my gosh.
That was my first reaction. And the pathways don't lead to that. The pathways don't really work to that. And of course, you would just have that little arrow sign saying entrance that way.
Okay.
I think that's what we discussed anyway.
Okay.
It's disabled is talking.
Those are my questions.
All right, Chip, I have one. I'm the easement along Ignatia Valley Road. or the road widening,
Dedication.
is that installed as part of this project, or is that a future installation?
That is a construction of the shared path is a condition of approval of the use permit.
So, okay. So the existing street tree that's out there now and what was shown in their renderings, then it will no longer be there because the road will be reconfigured. Is that correct?
That one will probably not be there. There'll be it hasn't been developed yet. The North Downtown Specific Plan is still fairly new. So nothing has really been designed yet, but street trees there's a landscape strip which will include street trees.
Right. But my question is on the applicant's plan, they're showing that street tree to remain, but that's won't happen now, right? With the road alignment?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure.
Okay. All right.
It was, and I say that because we're not really sure what it's going to look like yet. That hasn't been designed.
But it's part of this project though.
It is part of this project. But the design of the shared use path is not part of this project.
Okay, and then that landscape planter strip then, is that part of the applicant's responsibility? I mean, they're showing it on the landscape plan.
The landscape strip in the public, in the dedication area that will be a public right of way is the responsibility for the applicant, but it's not a part of this discussion.
Okay, now, boy, you really confused me. If it's not part of the discussion tonight, why is it, where does it come into be? Is it going to be installed as part of this project or a future installation? I'm not clear on that.
It'll be installed as a part of this project, but it's not designed yet. That'll be done through engineering.
So the applicant won't design it.
The applicant will design it, but it'll be in a future right of way. I guess what I'm saying is that I don't know that we want to get into the discussion tonight about designing that strip or anything to do with that shared path easement or that shared path dedication.
Okay, but on the landscape plan, he's already landscaped it. He's showing a tree and ground cover. So that is or is not part of what we're looking at.
Take a look.
Mr. Chair, while we're waiting for to take a look at it, we also have Ryan Cook, the engineer from the city, who is available also to.
So yeah, are you talking about it shows the existing tree with tree gate?
Right, but I'm looking on their sheet L1, and they have a landscape strip that I assume is this new planter strip planted up with the existing tree to remain, although that's in conflict with what their engineering plan calls for. But again, I'm not understanding what's to be built as part of this project. Is it just to the property line, or is it their responsibility to build out this new alignment with that planter strip?
Well, that's a difficult question because the project, as part of a condition of the project, is to build out the improvements as shown in the North Downtown Specific Plan. Unfortunately, there aren't any real design drawings associated with the North Downtown Specific Plan. This project, the design review, is within the property line as shown with the dedication. Maybe if I understand what the issue is, we could maybe get to a better resolution.
Well, ultimately, my concern is street trees in there, and whether we can put in 2 or 3 street trees, but I'm unclear whether that would be the applicant's responsibility now or the city's.
It's the applicant's.
Okay. Okay, let's move on then. There's no other questions. Chip from the commission?
You guys hear me?
Yeah. Charles, do you have I'm sorry.
I did, yeah, sorry. going off of your line of questioning, is that plan for that dedication area, is that going to come back before DRC or
It is
someone
not.
else? No. So who approves
It's
that?
not. It's a public right of way.
So it's just the city approves it.
Correct.
Okay, that's just me learning. So thank you for that. And then a couple of quick questions. So when they redo that strip, I assume all of the existing sidewalk concrete's being demolished and all new is going in?
Well, we're not absolutely sure how the alignment's going to change. Maybe Ryan could speak better to this, but there's the.
And let me add just real quick, the reason I was asking that question is if you look at perspective 4, which I think is the last perspective on the document.
The rendering?
The rendering. You've got this driveway cut out going to nowhere, and I would imagine that we won't be seeing that when this is all done because it doesn't look like it belongs there anymore.
Anything and that's shown from the back of sidewalk to the street will be different.
Okay. And then finally, on the black spandrel glass, how different is that going to look? What kind of contrast is that going to be from the actual real windows? Is there an attempt to blend so they sort of look similar, especially on the east side of the building, where you got
I don't exactly know what the tint is going to be on the east storefront, and that's a good question. And that might be a good question for the applicant.
And would we want maybe a condition to say, let's get this looking as close as possible? Otherwise, it might look kind of odd. And then I lied. I had one other question. And that's really, so there are the elevations with color, like A 3.2, 3.3, 3.4. But if we look at A 3.2, and also the colors there for that brick, the Adobe brick, look darker than the renderings. And I'm just curious if it's going to be more that lighter color or more the darker color that we see in the sample materials.
I would look to the material sample thumbnails that are on your plans.
Okay. I sort of like the lighter color, but
it is a little more ochre-ish that's shown on the elevation.
yeah, it just seems to kind of, I don't know, I just like it better, but that's it. Those are all my questions. Thanks.
All right, thanks. All right, if the applicant's here, if you do have an or a presentation, you're welcome, or if you just like to answer questions, but now's your turn. If you could please state your name just for the record, please.
Hi, good evening. This is Chandra Meehy from Tate & Associates. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My screen froze, so I'm not able to see any of the presentation, but we'll muddle through this. Thank you very much for having us. We appreciate it, and we appreciate this project moving forward during this interesting time. We do not have a presentation prepared. Chip did a fantastic job of encapsulating the updates and revisions that we've done in response to both the DRC comments and planning and engineering comments. We've really put a lot of time and energy and effort into making sure that the comments have been addressed what we feel is sufficiently. We're very anxious to hear what your feelings are on our updates. But we're just here to answer questions for you. I do have my design team, my civil engineer, architect, and landscape consultants, as well as 7-Eleven representatives with us.
Great, thank you. Do any of them have any presentation, or do you want to go right into questions?
No, let's go ahead and go right into questions, please.
Okay, with that, I'll open it up. If anybody would like to start. Nobody? Okay, I'll start.
Commissioner Carling just said he'd go. You're muted, though.
Am I muted?
No.
Carlos
Commissioner Carling is muted.
Charles is muted.
Charles is muted.
Okay.
Charles,
right.
Hey, I've unmuted, sorry, but I saw Casey's hand go up. Ladies first.
Okay. Is
That's
there,
Mr. Chair, hang on, Kate, we technically need to ask for any public comment if the applicant has no presentation.
I thought that came after our questions. Are we going to do that now?
I'm sorry, you're still asking questions. My bad.
Yeah.
okay. Are you guys able to hear me? I'm kind of choppy. Thumbs up.
Yeah.
So
I can hear you.
my question is there any particular reason why we can't put more trees on the corner?
On the corner of Civic and Ignacio Valley.
Right.
Yeah, that's within the PG&E easement, and we're only allowed low-growing shrubs there. We're not allowed to plant trees.
Okay. I had a feeling. I was like, I feel like I asked this last time and I got that answer.
Yeah.
Okay. That's my question for the moment. Thanks.
Casey, let me jump in so I'm not re-asking that question. I believe PG&E has a list of trees that are allowed, like crepe myrtles and prunus, small growing trees that are allowed underneath their power lines.
So I did go back to PG&E after the initial design review to confirm what I had stated, just to make sure that there was no wiggle room there, because I understand that that's something that you were addressing and wanting us to address. And we did get firm confirmation that only low growing shrubs are allowed.
I think that's their stock answer. I mean, I suspect that if we push it, again, understand you're not going to have an oak tree or some large tree in there, but I think we can get some, something like a crepe myrtle tree in there.
Okay.
So anyway, just as this conversation develops. So I'm sorry, Casey, if you had other questions.
Nope, that was it. Thank you.
I have a question, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Carlos?
Yes, should I be concerned with the heat trap you're creating on that south elevation with all that glazing and that wall behind? It's more like a Trump wall than just a fall glazing there. I mean, have you considered the impact of that glazing in the building, and how are you going to deal with it?
I have not. That is not my area of expertise. My architects, Steve Schneider and Rich Silly, should be on the line. Do you see them in your list?
Tell them to raise their hand.
No.
Yeah, maybe they could raise their hand. We have a John Ramagera.
Yeah, that's our civil engineer.
I don't see a Steve on the list.
Okay, I apologize. He must be having technical difficulties. Yeah, again, that's not something that I'm educated enough about to be able to answer that question. I apologize.
Yes.
I can tell you that the floor plan and the elevations have been vetted through 7-Eleven, and they know these coolers and how they operate and the heat that they put out, and they've accepted the elevations as shown. So they don't see a problem with it. But I can definitely note your question and make sure
That's my question. Yeah,
I'll make sure we address that.
it's only my concern that it's going to gain so much heat that it needs a very special detail to be able to move that hot air from that trap you're creating there.
Yeah, I'll make sure that that's looked at. And that'll also be something that's addressed in the construction document stage as well.
Okay, Charles, Joe, did you have any more questions, Carlos?
No, that's it.
All right, Charles or Joseph?
Let Charles go. He's been chomping at the bit.
All right, Charles, you're up.
I just have one tiny question on the lighting. In looking at the staff report and just from a couple gas stations I've worked on with the team here, canopy lighting is supposed to be recessed, but the fixtures, if I'm looking at the right fixtures, seem to be flush mount, not recessed. So I don't know if I'm missing something or.
We can I respond to that?
Yeah.
That's kind of become the current light fixture for gas station canopies. They are flush mounted. I'm not even sure that there is a recessed light in there any longer. But
there's one I saw. Somebody was kind enough to add it to the list of lights on the light fixture cut sheets, and there's the 304 series LED recessed canopy luminary. So there's a recessed one, and maybe it doesn't work with the canopy. So anyway, if the city and DRC are okay with, and that's historically been the type of fixture, then I don't have any objection. It was just more of a, for reading and looking, it was a question that popped up.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, Joseph, you're up.
Okay. You have brackets at the eyebrow, like that sun canopy on the front. And if you look at the side elevation, every one of them has a slightly different angle. Is that the way it's going to be done just because the storefront pulls in and out? Or are they going to be so that they're like the same length? I'm just kind of confused by that detail. And maybe you need your architect to answer it.
Yeah, I think that would be something. And I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because I can't pull up the elevations right now and review them. I don't want to leave the meeting. I'm concerned about getting back in. So, but yes, I would expect, because we have different variations in the storefront there, that's why the canopy bracket variation is.
Okay, now, okay, yeah. If I were to, I mean, the faux windows on the east elevation, I don't know. I agree. I think they're going to wind up full of Gatorade signage and stuff. So I don't know. I have to hear how the other commissioners feel about it. But I almost think that it would be another detail might be better to do. The one thought was maybe to do kind of a baseline detail. But again, your architect isn't here, so it's kind of hard to say. Like take that mullion line and just kind of bring a detail across to kind of ground the building a little bit. So again, I want to hear what the other commissioners think. I think that oversized kind of window thing, there may be other solutions. I agree with staff on that. And again, without your architect here, we really can't discuss it. And I almost think if we move forward on this, if the architects aren't here, we may have to, I hate to do another subcommittee, but we may have to have one if we can't resolve the architectural issues at this meeting. I also want to see if anybody else on the commission thinks that the sign on the south elevation seems a little big. It's almost like 10% too large, and the one on the east side is almost 10% too small, but maybe it's a stock sign, so maybe you can't change that. So just asking, Chandra?
No, we can reduce that signage area if that's what's requested.
I want to see what everybody else thinks. It just seems tight in there when we have that other large piece. Casey, I know you're a big sign person.
Yeah, I actually agree. I think that the south side being a little smaller and the Civic facing side being a little bigger makes more sense, because I was struggling with where to put that Civic facing side as well. So
it's just a little off, no matter what. Now on the east side, you have the sign and you have the door to the electrical room, and what happens is you have a brick section on the left, which is really narrower than the brick section on the right. Is there any way you can kind of squish that glass and door in a little bit and kind of make it proportional so it was the glass and door are centered? I don't think it's going to affect the location of the door in the electrical room if you shift it over about a foot.
On the south elevation or the east elevation?
South. If you look at the south, you have brick to the right of the window and brick to the left of the door. And on the left of the door, it's a little spindly. And on the right, the proportion is good. So I'm just wondering if you could just squish everything down and make that the same on the left and the right.
Yeah, I apologize. I thought you said the east elevation, so I was trying to understand. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. And even if we had to, I mean, ideally, we don't want to have to move that door at all. But if we're talking that small amount, I understand.
It'll still fit in the room. I don't think you're not going to change the shape of the room. I think the door just shifts over. And if I'm not mistaken, electrical room does not have to be an accessible door. So you can have the push side without the 12 inches, or you can flip the door the other way. So it doesn't look like a problem. Okay, and the bollards versus wheel stops, any opinions on that?
7-Eleven standard is bollards.
Is it
So
okay, so people
yeah.
don't trip over them, right?
yeah, they're gonna. Well, they are concerned about people driving through the
Sure.
parking spot and into the store. It's an issue.
Okay.
So bollards have become standard at each site.
Okay, I don't really have a problem with it. I always see them bent over because people run into them, but you must have good bollards. Those are my only questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to elaborate on that, wheel stops in general we consider to be a trip hazard too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
One thing I did want to bring up, I'm not the architect, but I'm the civil engineer, and one thing we discussed last time in regards to the large amount of brick was that on the landscape plan, we actually have trees planted in both, in front of both of those walls.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, my personal opinion is to get rid of those two faux windows and just have the tree with the backdrop of the brick, but I'll leave that to you guys.
All right, great. Does the civil engineer have a name?
John Romagero with Tate and Associates.
Okay, great.
I had
All right.
one quick question. Sorry. So in the presentation, Chip mentioned that you guys were willing to scale down the circle of the 76 sign that's on the overhang. Can we verify if that's 30 inches instead of 36?
33. So no, that was a miscommunication there or a confusion somehow. We did go to 76 and they are pushing back and really want us to advocate for them to have that button stay the larger size. We did go back and address planning comments and remove all other signage on the canopy. So they're asking us to move forward with the larger button. If it is a sticking point for you, I can go back and let them know that we need to reduce it, but they are requesting to remain the larger size.
And so the larger size is 33 inches.
Right.
Okay. And the size of the entire, like how much gap is on either side of it is what I'm after. Do the math for me, someone.
Inch and a half.
Inch and a half. I think they can get a volume discount because isn't the previous gas station, didn't they have small 76 buttons going down to 30 inch?
Question for the commission. Excuse me. I'm trying to share the screen. Can you see the plans or no?
No.
No?
No, just
Okay, on my screen it shows that it's up. Okay.
No, we see you.
Yeah, can I ask a question, Chair?
sure.
Thank you. So just back to the comment about the, windows, no windows, or something on the brick on the east elevation. I'm looking at perspective 2 with regard to the trees in front, and I think if that's fairly accurate, the only problem I see using the trees to sort of enhance the look with nothing else there is that depending on where you stand, you're going to see one side of the brick completely in plain view or the other. So the trees may not necessarily do what we think they might.
Yeah, I agree.
And we're open to suggestions on that as well. The only thing that we had a concern about, as Chip mentioned, was adding a trellis or a green screen there, it becoming a safety issue. But if there's another suggestion that Design Review Commission has, then we're very open to making that adjustment with those two, with that item.
Okay. All right. I have a few questions unless anybody else had other questions. I have one question on the site plan. The entry exit off of Civic Drive. The way it's orientated, especially if you're exiting out and making a right turn on Civic Drive, it's kind of an acute angle. Is there any reason that you can't bow out the landscape area where you're increasing the landscaping and you're also squaring up the driveway so that the drivers have a better turning radius on the Civic. And I can hold up, I don't know if you can see, I can hold up here the red, I can mark it. You can see what I'm talking about.
This is John Romagara, and I know exactly what you're talking about. The reason for that is that the Healy tank enclosure is required under the fire code to be 10 feet from the property line.
The what?
The Healy tank. It's an air separator tank for the underground storage tanks.
Okay, so how does that affect the curb or the property line? We're not moving the tanks.
That's on the north side of that drive, but it's not in the drive. It is, and it has to be outside of the drive in landscaping area, and that has to be 10 feet clear from the property line. So that's establishing the location of the drive lane.
Okay, I'm a little bit confused. We're not, if it's located on the plans and we're not touching it, we're just moving the curb. How does that affect it?
Yeah, it's hard to explain. I guess the placement is, if you look at the site plan.
Okay, site plan, you're looking at sheet, what, C2?
C1.
C1, okay. Boy, you went to the smaller plan, okay.
There is over on the north side, you see where the proposed underground fuel storage tanks are. Just northeast of that, there's a valley gutter that goes across, but north of that in the landscape area, there's a proposed air separator tank and vent riser assembly.
I see that.
That is 10 feet from the property line under fire code requirements.
Okay, what I'm talking about is if you go south, like the curb on the other side of the driveway.
Hey, Brian,
Okay.
did you draw that? Are you looking something
Yeah,
like
let me draw it.
Yeah. Brian?
Okay.
Here, I'm gonna hold it up. I don't know if I can go
Oh, he's got a
live
better
on full
drawing.
screen or not. Is that, can people see that?
Yep.
Can you pull it back just a hair? Okay, thanks.
So is that clear what I'm asking, if that's possible? It doesn't seem to be affecting what you were just talking about on that air separator.
I think we could entertain that. The driveway proposed is in the same location as the existing.
Yeah, it wouldn't affect the curb.
I believe we were told to reduce that to 35 feet. Maybe I'm mistaken on that. Yeah, I guess we'd be widening it out a little bit towards the intersection then.
You're not widening the drive curb cut. You're at that point, it's the same point. What you're doing is just reducing some of the asphalt in the drive aisle.
Okay. Just
All right.
add landscaping. As that 35-foot throat comes into the site, we would narrow that up.
Sure.
I'd have to look at that in regards to the circulation exhibits, but yeah,
It doesn't affect your circulation in your truck or whatever. You have that room. You have room to do it according to your exhibits.
yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Next question is, let's move over to the south side of the 7-Eleven building, and we have the pathway going to the electrical room. There's a retaining wall there. In your rendering, it appears just to be a concrete wall. Is there any reason that can't also be adobe brick to tie it into the rest of the project?
Correct. Yeah, there's no reason for that. We've got it called out on the site plan as proposed retaining wall, color and finish to match building. So
Okay, that could be the adobe brick. Okay, can you explain to me, I was asking Chip earlier, I guess this is a landscape question. is the planter strip, as you're showing it on your plans, that new planter strip, is that part of this project you're installing and designing?
Yes. Yeah, the frontage improvements are conditioned. They weren't previously in the conditions. We were previously showing it as a fair use or a future shared use path. However, when it went to Planning Commission, it was added to the conditions, and we are now required to construct the 14-foot shared use path and the landscape strip along Ignacio Valley Road.
Okay.
The landscape plantings will be installed in compliance with the North Downtown specific plan.
Okay. Now on your C1 sheet, you're showing the existing street tree to be removed, but on the sheet L1, you're showing that existing tree to remain. Which is it?
Oh, we previously did have it being removed. And it does seem to be that it was still left on there, and maybe it can be salvaged. I'm not opposed to salvaging it if that's what's appropriate. I'm
not necessarily fishing for that. What I'm fishing for is in that planter strip. I think there's an opportunity to maybe have 2 street trees and maybe another one to the east of the driveway curb cut. So there could be a possibility of a total of 3 street trees. And again, I guess if the city engineer is online, if he could weigh in as far as any potential underground utilities that might prevent that request.
Well, I would like to also point out, this also goes back to the issue with the overhead PG&E easement. All of that frontage is within that 100-foot PG&E easement. So I know you pointed out that you think that there's some play there with the crepe myrtles and whatnot, but so that also goes into this.
Sure. But if we could at least remove some of the questions regarding utility. Ken, is the city engineer available to answer that question, or is that?
Yeah, Ryan, are you there?
Yes. Hi, good evening, commissioners. Ryan Cook, associate engineer with the city. In relation to the street trees and potential for additional ones, I mean, we are open to suggestions from Design Review Commission as related to that, especially with the removal of that second driveway there along Ignacio. Definitely see that it is possible that another one could fit, as long as everything fits within our standard spacing and everything. And we would have to check to make sure that everything can work within that PG&E easement appropriately. And whether or not that tree is to be saved or replaced, I'm open to suggestions from the commissioners in terms of what their preference would be for that.
Okay, great, thank you. Then regarding landscaping, first of all, it seems like you have a lot of natal plums, and I know that's more of a coastal shrub that really doesn't do well in this inland area. So if you come up with some other variety of that, and the other concern is you have that kind of as a hatch pattern all over, where you just seem to be carpeting the whole project with that natal plum.
Can you hear me? This is Roderick from CDPC, the landscape architect firm.
Yes, we can hear you.
Cool. Yeah, the natal plum is it's a real good hardy kind of carpet. They call it that. And it's a pretty good performer, and if it's getting enough water, it should be fine. It's kind of a workhorse, so it looks good overall without a whole lot of maintenance. So these are plants that we kind of look for in this kind of situation because we can't always count on what's going to happen down the road. So I kind of look for plants that are going to look good if they're left alone or if they're over butched and pruned and all that kind of stuff. So the natal plum seems to work really well. And it's also, there's a height factor out there on, for visibility coming in and out of the driveway. Coming out of that the driveway into the Ignacio Valley, a tree to the east would look nice, but it is kind of a consideration to think that whether or not that could be into a site triangle conflict. So sometimes that could be taken into consideration too. Bringing it out onto the corner like that, it could become a problem with visibility and circulation.
Yeah, that's easily defined by site triangle.
Yeah.
I couldn't read your plan. What are you proposing in front of that retaining wall that's on the south side of the building?
Yeah, the south side of the building, we've called out Westringia, and again, it's a really great screening shrub. It grows relatively quickly, looks great if nobody does anything to it. And most of the time that's not the case. In commercial settings, it'll be pruned, and it'll make a hedge. It'll be 3 to 4 feet, and it's got a really fine texture, and it's just a really good workhorse that looks good no matter kind of what they do to it, and provides a full hedge. So you won't be able to see through it. It won't be toothy. It's really, really fine textured and solid. So we like to use that because it performs really well in a lot of varieties of environments in California, and certainly in a parking lot. So we did that, and it's also around the north and the east side of the transformer. And like I said, within probably a year or two, it will be a solid wall of green, and it'll be 3 feet. So that's just something from within the parking lot. The transformer will be screened from those 2 angles with that. And then from Ignacio, there's an entire wall of the Westringia along the south side of the building and extending up into the pedestrian access there. So it'll be a nice green opaque wall of shrubbery.
Okay, great, thank you. That large planter area on the kind of the corner of Ignacio and Civic, is there any reason we can't put either large shrubs or multi-trees in there, and also within the bioswale areas to get a little bit of height variety and break it up a little bit?
It's my understanding, again, the easement that
I'm talking like a multi smoke tree or a crepe myrtle that gets 6 feet tall or 8 feet tall. That's not going to be a concern with PG&E.
I don't have a problem with adding a couple like focals that would be small or like a large shrub size. A lot of times the trees that are on their list are pretty small. Even the crepe myrtles that they recommend, like the Zuni shrub, to tell you the truth.
Right, but that's still going to give us a little bit more height variety than what you're showing now. Right now, everything is just, you got a butch haircut across there, and it'd be nice to get some a little bit of variety in there. Also within the bioswale, it's just kind of a pit. Again, I've always challenged people, you can't put trees in bioswales. It's not that you can't put them in, but you just have to provide the detail and subtract that square footage out of the calculations on the impervious area. But there's no reason, with the right detail, and you can't have trees in that bioswale. And I think this is a perfect opportunity, just being such a prominent corner and having a large area. I think we need some sort of small trees in these areas. My last I guess this is in response to you, Joseph, on the sign on the south side. I think it's too big. And I think also your perspective when you're going by either walking or in a car, you're going to be lower and you're going to have that awning sticking out. And I think that's going to cut off visually part of that sign anyway, where it just doesn't appear to fit. So I think it needs to be reduced, and if it could be raised up a little bit. Otherwise, I think it's not going to fit in that area. So I guess I'll end. That's more of a comment. So does anybody else have any questions before we open it up to the public?
Yeah,
Okay.
Brian, I have a question for you. I want to put this up. Is this what you were thinking of with that driveway to sort of twix the whole thing so it hits more square
Well,
on Civic?
it was. I'm going to put it up now. Let's see if I can put up mine. I'm actually adding.
Oh, narrowing it down. Okay. I got you.
Right. So I'm bowing out the curb into the driveway. I'm going to say maybe 4 feet, 5 feet. I don't really know. But it's when you look at the circulation of the trucks and everything, it doesn't impede that. So there is room to do this. And also it kind of squares out. So when the cars are coming out, now it's more of a 90-degree turn.
Yeah.
Right, rather than going at a sharp angle. So I think there's a couple of positive points to be able to do that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, there's no more questions at this point. We'll open
Sorry,
it up.
do you mind if I interrupt? I apologize.
Sure.
This is Chandra Mehi from Tate and Associates. I just had one question, if this is an appropriate time. Just want to make sure that I'm understanding the clarification. On the signage on the south elevation, it's currently 24 inches. Do you know, or can you address later when you summarize what size you would like that signage to be?
Sure.
And then
we'll bring it back and have comments so we can have some more dialogue on that sign.
perfect. And I also have my architect, Rich Sotelo, says that he is on the line. So if there are any architectural comments, Rich is available to answer them if they weren't
Okay.
sufficiently answered previously.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this point, we're going to open it up to the public again. If you'd like to join us, the ID number is 938-8733-7024, and the password is 375724. And if you're going to call in by phone, the number is 1-669-900-6833. So if you have any questions or comments on this project, we invite you to join us now.
Okay, we'll wait, Mr. Chair, for anyone to chime in, and then just to let you know, Rich Sotelo was promoted to panelist in the event there are any questions for him.
And may I add, we had no correspondence, no written correspondence submitted.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Chair, does not look like anyone's chiming in, so
Okay.
so we'll move forward.
Okay, at that point, I'm going to close the public hearing. I'll bring it back. Joseph, did you want to go back with some of your architectural questions for the architect? Or,
Yeah, if you want, well, you'll have to reopen the public hearing for him, I guess.
Okay, consider it open.
Yep. And this is just really kind of a question for the rest of the commissioners too. Is this kind of base detail versus the windows on the front of the building? It was interesting. I was kind of thrown off at the beginning because I looked at the cover sheet and it had the old rendering on it. I started marking it up. I'm like, wait a minute, nobody was listening to anything we said. And then I drew the trees on there to see what it would do to those walls. And it actually did reduce the bulk of those two walls. I don't really like the spandrel glass necessarily on the front, but I was just wondering whether, I can get this up there, some kind of a detail, along the to line up, actually better on this side, like just a brick line or something right across here, just to kind of give the building a base or something, whether that's something that the architect could consider. It could just be like not a soldier course, but like a row lock going across, just to give some kind of a line. So Rich, do you think something like that would work as opposed to the spandrel glass windows? Rich, you're muted. There he is.
All right, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, it's something we can certainly consider. Is there a specific material you would like to see down there?
No, I think it could be the brick, just in a detail in the brick. You know, you could have
Okay.
a base brick top and then just kind of a detail across to get kind of a little shadow line on the brick possibly. And again, I want to see what the other commissioners think on this. I'm just asking if you think you could do something like that instead of the windows.
Yeah, it's something that certainly can be done
Okay.
if that's preferred.
Yep. And then we were also looking at the south end of the building. And when you look at the south end of the building, you have the door on the left, and then you have all this glass, and you have a kind of a brick, almost pilaster on the right side of the windows. And on the left, you have a much smaller pilaster. Do you think you can shift everything over and make it more proportional so both the left and the right side are the same? Again, without having a picture up, it's kind of hard to understand. And I
understand.
I think you can move the door and no problem.
I can see it. And yeah, I mean, that's definitely doable.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then Carlos had a question. I'll just reiterate it about the spandrel glass as to whether there's an issue with heat buildup behind them.
There should not be. The glass that we use would reflect heat just like any other glass, even though it's spandrel. So there shouldn't be an issue with heat buildup behind it.
Those are my only other questions for the architect.
Okay. No other questions in. Let's bring it back to comment and kind of wrap this up. So would anybody like to start on their comments?
I can start.
Casey?
Yeah, so I am not a fan of I'm just going to call it the fake windows. I feel like I like the suggestion that Joseph brought up, something to break up the expanse of that wall. I think would be helpful. I wonder if there's an option for a planter or, you know, like a cutout for some green, just something. It needs something. And I'm not sure what the solution is, but it feels like an expansive wall. The south side, I think the artificial windows there kind of bother me as well. I feel like it's almost the architecture is suggesting that that's an active use side, and it's not. So there's a part of me I almost want to just plant it and hide it, except for the sign. I just think it's like misleading. It's an electrical door. But I do really like that there's access from Ignacio Valley. So I like that walkway's there. So I don't have any issue with that. I would love to see, sorry, there's my child that scared me to death. I'd love to see opportunities for street trees along Ignacio, because I think any chance we can add more trees is an improvement. And that is it. I'm going to mute because my child has busted into the room.
Okay, Carlos?
Well, I'll have to second Casey on this one. I mean, the windows do bother me a lot. I'm not in favor of fall windows. I think it doesn't bring anything to the building. I think it just covers the probably it's making it easier for the architect to bring this thing and not try to do something with the brick itself. I think there are many chances with the brick. I mean, you can create different surfaces, different planes. You can create shadows. You can do a lot of things with the brick that will be a lot better than the window. And I think the heat, there's going to be some heat related issue as well, and some maintenance issue with those windows. So I'm against windows on the east location, and I'm against the windows on the south location. I would definitely try to come up with a brick solution, given that the brick is definitely a part of this project.
Okay, what about the signs, Carlos? Both the one on the south elevation and the button signs?
Well, I mean, south elevation, if you're asking me again, windows or no, I don't see the awning there either. I mean, an awning for what? On a blank wall. That doesn't make any sense either. It's just decoration. It's you're throwing that for free there. So If there's no awning, and if you don't work the windows, you just work the brick, the size of the sign wouldn't be a problem for me.
Okay. All right, Charles?
All right, thank you. Obviously, the windows are a point of contention. If they were real windows, that'd be fantastic, but they're not going to be real windows. I was a little worried about the coloration or tint. How will those windows stand out from the real windows? Will they obviously look fake? I don't know what the architectural term for this is, but I'll use the term art niche. I mean, could you have something sort of inset in lieu of the windows, but it's all brick? And I think Carlos was talking about different layers or elevations of the brick. I'd be fine with that too. I just would be opposed to going back to the flat brick wall with nothing else there. And I guess I could say the same thing for the south side. The awning makes sense with the spandrel glass because it looks like, a part of the store, but I hear the other opinions but that's not real. And so why are we doing that? So I would have no objection to doing something different there on that wall as well. I still don't believe, based upon at least the perspectives or renderings, that the two trees in front of the east elevation, I don't think they will do enough to make up for just having the flat brick on each end of the building. This might be a crazy idea, but I don't know if there's something on those brick walls you could do with some of that wood paneling that you've got next to it. Could some of that element be incorporated onto that wall somehow? That might be just a silly, crazy idea. But I was just looking for something like that. Just to break up those flat areas. That's probably my biggest comment of all. Whether it's the spandrel glass windows or some other way of achieving it is my main issue. Otherwise, I think the project's really great. I love when people are willing to invest in tearing down these old service stations and build up brand new stores and stations. Those are my comments.
All right, thanks, Joseph.
Yeah, I kind of disagree. I've used spandrel glass before, and I think when it's done correctly, it looks fine. I like the fact that I was one of the ones that didn't like that south elevation before because I thought it's right up on Ignacio Valley Road, up a hill on top of a wall, and it's gonna be very blank. And so for me, I actually, when I saw the renderings, there's so little glass on the east side, I thought having this kind of fake elevation that almost looked like the front of a building was an improvement. And so I think other than the proportions of it, I thought it was a good solution. I think whatever else you put there is gonna look very flat and very tall. And I thought this looked better proportionally, so that's me. Again, I think the sign on if the wall changes and they take off the canopy or the awning, then the whole wall is going to change anyway. So the proportions of the sign will be very different. And again, I'm not so sure that sign shown on the rendering is to scale. And I think if it's only a 24-inch sign, it may look better than what's there, but I think it needs to be carefully studied as to what that's going to look like. Because yeah, this elevation here, where there was a door and a window.
That's the old elevation. Excuse me.
This is the old elevation.
We go to the next one, Matt.
Next one.
One more.
Yeah, I think if that again, I don't mind spandrel glass, but that's me. It's funny. Right around the corner, you have that apartment building across from Target, and they put their art in the glass on the second floor. And it's just sort of this tree thing that, really kind of completes the building on that second floor for their art. That would be great. I'd love to see something along this building that was like that you could almost decorate that with art instead of giving the in lieu fee and make that spandrel glass something a little bit more interesting. But that's if we ever did spandrel glass, which it sounds like we will not. I want to definitely, commend the architect on, I think it's a lot better what they've done. I really like the Nishiha material. I think it's going to look really good on the building, and I think it'll be nice. Again, as I said earlier, I don't like these fake windows on the east side, and I would do a brick detail. to kind of get that one line defined around the building to give it a base. And then I would say on that one monument sign, it definitely needs to be pushed back, because if that's going to be a two-way bike lane, sight distances, you will have conflicts between bicycles and cars. So I think the one on Natio Valley Road needs to go back. Those are my only comments.
Okay. I don't really have anything more to add. I agree. I think that the city has a defined site triangle, and that's going to establish where that can or cannot go, both the street tree and the monument signs. So that's pretty well a cut and dry process, I believe. I agree with Casey. I'd like to introduce into whoever makes a condition that they put in 3 street trees along Ignatia Valley Road. Again, recognizing that they're going to be small trees, working with PG&E. And also they add a few more multi-tree in the corner landscape area. I agree with the east elevation, remove the faux windows and do something with brick. That would be my 2 cents on that. I kind of come down with Joseph on the east elevation. I think that adds a little bit of life along the streetscape there. And as long as we can condition it that we don't have paper signs and open signs and everything else junking up those windows, but it remains kind of a clean elevation. But I'm not opposed if the architect comes up with a brilliant idea with some sort of just a brick facade and removes the awning. I'm okay with that too. I think with the landscaping, it could all work out. So overall, I'm in favor of this project. Before I forget, on the button signs, I do think it needs to go down to 30 inches. And as I kind of remarked before, I think we had 30 inches on the other 76 station at over on Main Street. So I think it is doable and it fits more in canopy. And I do think there's an opportunity to just get a little bit more landscaping, increase the asphalt on the driveway coming off our North Civic. Since we're doing the new curbing anyway, it's not really, forcing them to rip up something existing and redo it. So I think that's easily doable. But overall, I'm in favor of the project. I like what they've done, the changes that they've made, and I'm in agreement with that. But it sounds like there's possibly, unfortunately, another subcommittee in our future here. So with that, let's see if we can put together a motion, unless anybody else has any other comments.
Brian, I have a question. Were the 76 button signs supposed to be, was they shown as 33 or 36? I don't have the sign package.
They're shown at 33 on the applicant with a 33-foot band. And I want a 30-inch button on a 3-foot band is what I'm proposing.
Okay.
Through the chair, can I make a comment?
Sure.
The previous project you're speaking about increased the height of the canopy. The button's the same, 33 inches.
And what was the width of the canopy?
I believe it. I'm not sure what it went to.
Yeah, I just remember. I may be incorrect. I mean, I remember that being an issue, and it was a condition that they have that it fit proportionally in there. So again, that's where I'm going with this one. So however it works out.
I suppose if there's a subcommittee, they're going to have to look at that. It's drawn proportionally and make that comment, I guess. But recommendation is smaller.
Yeah. Okay, is anyone going to try a motion, or if not, I'll try to put one together.
Go ahead, Brian. Why not?
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve. I'm trying to find the project application number Y19-090 with the resolution from the Planning Commission, and with the added conditions that the site plan be changed to accommodate additional landscaping on the driveway coming off of North Civic Drive, that site triangles be provided and they locate the monument sign and feature street trees, so there's no conflict with site triangles. That the 2 faux windows on the east elevation be eliminated and they come back with some sort of a brick treatment or other device if the architect feels that that's a better solution. And on the south elevation, I'm going to punt on that and leave that up to the subcommittee to look at it, because again, I'm happy with what the architect is showing. So I'm going to say that if the subcommittee, through dialogue with the architect, comes up with a different solution, I'm happy with that either way. And the last motion would be that working with the city and PG&E, that they install 3 street trees along Ignatia Valley Road. And I believe that's my motion.
I'll second that motion. Any discussion? I want to make sure.
Okay.
None? I'll second it.
Okay. If there's no discussion, we'll have a roll call, Ken.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Chair Killian,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorney,
Yes.
Commissioner Krilling. Oh, you're on mute, sorry.
Nod your head.
Yes.
Commissioner Valia
No.
and Vice Chair Case.
Yes.
All right, the motion carries 4-1.
Okay, so now I guess before we leave, so the applicant knows who's going to be on the subcommittee or what's going on. I think Joseph, for sure, if you're willing to do that.
Can I make a comment? I didn't hear a subcommittee being created in that motion.
Yeah, that's what we're creating right now.
But that should be in the motion.
Yeah, we may want to be specific about what the subcommittee is reviewing in the motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, are we allowed to go back and amend the motion, or it is what it is?
No, you can certainly amend it. So if the motioner and the seconder would agree to that, we can have another vote here too.
Okay, well, I'll agree with it since that was my intent.
I still second the motion.
Okay. All right. You know what? I'm just going to call the roll for the heck of it.
Should we, this is Charles, should we define the scope of the subcommittee as a part of the motion?
Sure, let's clarify everything. In my motion, I want to clarify that the subcommittee is really only looking at this south and east elevation of the building, and those 2 items. So it's an architectural element.
The canopy size at all? Or is that just keep the canopy
talking
size?
about the canopy over the gas or the canopies on the building?
I thought they said they wanted to make the canopies larger and put larger signs, but you're saying no to that one, right? We're saying no. They were talking about making a larger canopy and putting the larger signs, right? Am I wrong?
No.
We're saying keep the canopy the size it is and make them 30 inches.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, does everybody understand that? Are we clear on that? So we're back to the subcommittee now, where the canopy is not an issue. It's the same size with a 30-inch button. Everybody agrees with that?
Yes.
Okay, so the subcommittee again is back to dealing with just the building elevation.
The signage on both the south elevation and the east elevation.
Right,
sign.
that would be part of the elevation.
Right, that's true. Okay.
The package deal of the building.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I've got a motion, clarified motion, and a second. I'll go ahead and call the roll again. Chair Killian,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorney,
Yes.
Commissioner Krilling,
Yes.
Commissioner Valia,
No.
okay, and Commissioner Case.
Yes.
All right, motion carries 4-1.
Okay.
I'm sorry, just Mr. Chair, for clarification, so the subcommittee will just be one commissioner, Commissioner Gorney, is that right?
Should we always have 2? It'll just be done probably through email anyway, so. I know Casey, you're really into signs, so maybe we should put Casey on this one.
I'm fine with that. I'm
Okay.
really into signs.
You should be on the sign subcommittee, I think.
Yeah, I'm on.
I
Not really.
second that.
Walked right into that, Casey.
I've been on long enough.
Yep. Never
Okay, we have,
from a fellow commissioner.
all right, moving on then. Let's go on. Item number 5. First of all, I don't know if the applicant's still on. Hopefully that was clear to you. We kind of muddled to the motion and everything. Are you?
Yes, I'm clear. No questions. I'm clear. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to item number 5, which is commission considerations. Do we have any commission considerations?
None from staff.
Okay, let's go to item 6, commission member and staff report for announcements.
I was going to be missing the next meeting, but I just forgot that they're all done on Zoom anyway, so I can do it anywhere. So I'll be there.
Okay. All right,
Okay.
was that the only announcement?
Mr. Chair, let's see, I just wanted to double check. Commissioner Gorney, were you going to be around on the 19th as well?
Which month? This
Next
next month? Not sure.
Okay, so
I'll probably be gone on the 5th. I should be back by the 19th.
Okay. All right, you will be around. You'll be able to zoom in on the 5th.
Yeah, both of them.
Okay. Okay. Other than that, let's see, Mr. Chair, we do have some items that will be of some interest to the commission coming up on August 5th. We will have presentations from the city attorney's office and from our own staff regarding some of the state housing laws. So we'll get an update from the city attorney's office on that, and also the Senate Bill 330 and the objective design standards and how those will relate to housing projects that will be coming forward. So we'll have a couple of presentations at our next meeting, August 5th. So just to let you know that it looks like the 1501 North California item will be moving down to August 19th. And I do have a note that Chair Killian will need to recuse on that item. Let's see. I think that's about it. We're still moving along here at staff. We're still getting applications in. So we do have a few items on the next few meetings, and you get those schedules too. So we're looking good. We're still moving along. So that is it from staff.
I have
All right,
a question.
thank you. That moves us to number 7, adjournment. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Good job.
Thank you.
Night,
Thanks,
everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Ah.
Stay away from the COVIDs.